Have you ever stumbled upon something so powerful it seemed alive and terrifying? Emberlight never thought a simple stroll through the forest would change her life forever. The forest was alive with whispers, but not the ordinary rustle of leaves or the familiar chatter of woodland creatures. Tonight, something deeper stirred. Emberlight's ears twitched as a cold breeze carried the scent of smoke, yet the air was wet with mist, as if the forest itself were breathing. Drawn by an unexplainable pull, Emberlight padded softly over gnarled roots, her agile form blending seamlessly with the shadows. Then, ahead, she saw it, a flicker of blue-orange light barely visible behind a thicket. Her heart leapt. A flame? Here? It was unlike any fire she had ever seen. Tiny, yet vibrant, it danced without smoke, casting a glow that felt alive. The air around it shimmered, whispering in a voice she could almost understand. "Guardian! Awaken!" Emberlight crouched closer, mesmerized. The flame pulsed as if responding to her heartbeat, curling like a living creature. She reached out a tentative paw. The instant her fur brushed the light, visions slammed into her mind. Villages crumbling under black smoke, forests swallowed by shadows, and creatures screaming in the dark. Her fur stood on end, eyes wide. Something was watching. From the edge of the tree line, a silhouette, tall and still, observed her. Emberlight froze. It had no face, only glowing eyes that vanished the moment she blinked. Shaking, she pulled back, the whispers growing louder. "Guardian, choose." The flame hissed. Her paw tingled with warmth, and then cold. A burning mark appeared, glowing faintly across her fur. Her ears twitched toward the village. But the familiar sounds were gone. Silence pressed against her like a heavy fog. The animals she knew, the birds, the squirrels, even the foxes, were gone or hiding. Shadows moved where no light should reach. A tremor ran through her tail. Emberlight's heart pounded in her chest. This was no ordinary night. The flame had chosen her, and now she was caught in something far bigger than herself. When Emberlight finally blinked, the village she called home had vanished. Empty fields stretched into the mist. Her paw burned with the mark of the flame, the forest whispering secrets she didn't yet understand. What is this flame? Who or what is watching her? And where did the village go? Stay with Emberlight, because the journey is only just beginning. Emberlight's gaze swept over the mist-shrouded fields where her village once stood. Not a single hut, not a flicker of warmth, only twisted shadows stretching across the fog. The mark on her paw throbbed, a steady rhythm that seemed to pulse in tune with the forest itself. The flame whispered again, faint but insistent. "Follow. Do not falter." Her agile paws carried her through the eerie silence, each step echoing unnaturally. The forest had changed. Branches arched like skeletal fingers, and the wind whispered unintelligible warnings. Animals scuttled in panic, disappearing before she could get close. Emberlight's ears twitched as if sensing eyes in every shadow, watching, calculating. Then, ahead, a figure emerged from the mist. A tall, lean feline with fur streaked silver like moonlight on water. His eyes glowed faintly gold, serene yet piercing. Emberlight instinctively crouched, ready to flee or fight. "You feel it too, don't you?" the cat said, voice calm but grave. "The shadows. They are older than you imagine. Older than any guardian. I am Ashenclaw, and I have been waiting for you." Emberlight's tail flicked, unsure whether to trust this stranger. "Waiting for me? How? What is happening to my village?" Her voice trembled. Ashenclaw's gaze shifted to the fog beyond. "The shadows are drawn to the flame you bear. They are not random. They anticipate, adapt, and they hunger for it. Your presence has already stirred them." A low hiss slithered through the mist, followed by a rustle in the trees. Emberlight's fur bristled. Shadows began to detach from the fog itself, forming into dark, undulating figures with eyes like molten silver. They moved with unnatural precision, circling, waiting. "We don't have much time," Ashenclaw warned, his claws scraping the ground. "You must learn to control the flame, or it will consume you, and they will consume everything you love." The shadow creatures lunged with terrifying coordination, cutting off every escape route. Emberlight's heart thundered. She could feel their hunger, a cold weight pressing against her chest. Every instinct screamed to run, yet the mark burned hotter, urging her forward. Then, in a sudden surge of instinctive power, the flame on her paw blazed with wild intensity. Light tore through the mist, blinding and searing. The shadows recoiled, revealing a jagged fissure in the earth, a hidden passage, yawning beneath the roots of an ancient tree. Emberlight's eyes widened. Ashenclaw glanced down at the passage, his expression grim. This is our only chance. But be warned. What lies below may test you more than the shadows ever could. As Emberlight prepared to leap into the darkness, the shadows shrieked and surged forward again, claws scraping the edge of the fissure. The flame in her paw flared higher, the forest trembling with its power. Will Emberlight survive the descent? And what awaits them in the depths, hidden from the world above? The journey into the unknown begins. Emberlight leapt into the hidden fissure, the shadows above screeching as if angered by her escape. Roots scraped her fur, stone crumbled beneath her claws, and the faint glow of her paw's flame barely illuminated the descent. Ashenclaw followed closely, his golden eyes scanning the darkness. The passage widened into a cavern that smelled of ancient stone and damp earth. Faintly etched into the walls were murals, faded but unmistakable, depicting humanoid cats wielding flames, standing valiantly against unspeakable darkness. Emberlight's heart quickened as she traced the images with her eyes. Each guardian bore a mark like hers, and each seemed to succumb to some curse, their flames extinguished, their forms twisted into shadows. "Every guardian before you," Ashenclaw murmured, voice low and reverent. "They all failed. This lair is the heart of their doom." A sudden rustle interrupted their observation. From the shadows, a lithe figure emerged. A fox, her fur a patchwork of fiery orange and midnight black, eyes glinting with cunning intelligence. "Well, well," the fox said smoothly. "Looks like the guardian finally showed up." Emberlight crouched defensively. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I'm Lyria," the fox replied, tail flicking casually. "And let's just say, I have a vested interest in these shadows, but don't think for a second I'm here to help you." A cold unease settled over Emberlight. Lyria's knowledge of the shadows was unsettlingly precise, yet her motives remained hidden. Could she be trusted, or was she leading them into a trap? The cavern trembled suddenly, dust raining from the ceiling. From the darkness beyond, shapes moved. Shadow beasts, more coordinated and cunning than Emberlight had ever seen. Their eyes glowed faintly silver, reflecting her own flame. They advanced with intelligence, anticipating every step, circling, herding her toward the murals. Emberlight's paw flared instinctively, casting jagged shadows across the walls. The murals seemed to react, flickering with echoes of past guardians, their faces twisted in silent screams. The weight of history pressed down on her, urging her to flee. But where? A monstrous growl echoed from the cavern's depths. One shadow beast lunged, faster than thought, and Emberlight barely dodged. She skidded across the stone, claws catching on loose rubble. Lyria darted past her, smirking, but Emberlight noticed the fox's hesitation, almost as if she had expected this. Then, without warning, the ground beneath Emberlight crumbled. She tumbled into a yawning abyss, her flame flickering wildly as darkness swallowed her. The cavern above seemed impossibly distant, Ashenclaw's voice faintly calling her name. Panic surged. Her mark burned hotter, her vision fractured into shards of light and shadow. Emberlight plummeted into the unknown, swallowed by darkness, unsure if she would survive the fall or if the flame within her could even guide her. What lies at the bottom of the abyss? Can Emberlight survive the shadow's cunning? And what secrets does Lyria truly hide? The darkness waits. And the Guardian's trial has only just begun. Emberlight's fall seemed endless, darkness pressing against her chest like a living thing. Then, just as hope faltered, a sudden warmth enveloped her paw. The flame within flared, illuminating the jagged walls of the abyss. With a fierce push, she clawed her way upward, the shadows that had pursued her dissolving into wisps of smoke. When she finally emerged, gasping, the world was bathed in an unnatural twilight. The forest gave way to the edges of a city she barely recognized. Buildings twisted unnaturally, shadows curling along streets and rooftops as if alive. Emberlight's heart sank. This was not her village, yet something familiar lingered. Whispers of lives now being manipulated, pawns in a game she did not yet understand. Ashenclaw appeared beside her, his eyes narrowed. This city, it's where the shadow manipulator holds sway. Whoever controls the shadows controls the flame. And they've already begun turning the innocent into instruments of chaos. Emberlight's tail twitched uneasily. Her mind raced. Who could wield such power? And why? As they moved cautiously through the fog-laden streets, Emberlight glimpsed villagers, some stiff and distant, eyes blank, moving as if guided by invisible strings. A chill ran down her spine. This was the work of someone who knew her world intimately, someone capable of bending life itself to their will. That night, exhausted and tense, Emberlight finally allowed herself to sleep. But sleep brought no peace. In her dreams, a figure appeared, cloaked in darkness, eyes like molten silver. It circled her, voice dripping with mockery. So, the Guardian awakens. Did you think you could control what is already lost? Emberlight struggled to speak. Who are you? What do you want? The figure's grin widened. I want only what you cannot yet grasp. Every shadow, every flame, all are pieces of a game you have barely begun to understand. Fail, and all that you love will burn. She woke with a start, fur damp with sweat, eyes darting around her makeshift camp. The flame in her paw, once steady and protective, flickered uncertainly, weak and unresponsive. A cold whisper brushed against her ear, like a voice carried on the wind. You cannot save what you do not understand. Panic surged as she realized the manipulator's influence extended even to her flame. The stakes had risen beyond shadows and forests, entire lives, her village, perhaps even the balance of the world, now hung by a thread only she could hold. Emberlight's eyes narrowed, resolve hardening even as her paw burned with the flickering mark. The manipulator had begun the game, and the Guardian had only just stepped onto the board. Will Emberlight uncover who controls the shadows? Can she restore her flame before it's too late? And who among the villagers can still be saved? The path ahead is shrouded in deception, and every step could be a trap. The cold whisper still lingered in Emberlight's mind as she followed Ashenclaw through the fog-choked streets on the outskirts of the city. Her paw burned with the flickering mark, the flame weak and unsteady, but Ashenclaw's eyes glimmered with determination. You cannot fight shadows without mastering what you carry within, Emberlight, he said gravely. Your flame is not just a weapon. It is an extension of yourself. They reached a hidden courtyard beneath an ancient, crumbling tower. The walls were etched with runes that pulsed faintly in the twilight. Here, Ashenclaw began her training, controlling bursts of flame, projecting light into the shadows, and merging instinct with strategy. Emberlight's body ached as she pushed herself, sweat dripping, claws leaving scars on the stone floor. Yet with every failed attempt, the flame flickered unpredictably, as though sensing her doubt. In the midst of training, a rustle in the shadows drew Emberlight's attention. Lyria appeared, tail flicking, eyes unreadable. "You've been busy," she said casually, though Emberlight sensed the hidden edge in her voice. "Careful. Shadows notice everything, and so do those who command them." A shiver ran down Emberlight's spine. Lyria's cryptic warnings hinted at secrets she refused to reveal. Could Lyria be a spy for the shadow forces, or was she a reluctant ally walking a fine line between survival and deception? Trust had become a dangerous gamble. Hours passed, the sun disappearing beneath a blood-red horizon. As darkness crept over the city, a sudden shriek tore through the streets. Shadows erupted like living water, coiling toward the courtyard in coordinated fury. Emberlight's heart pounded. This was an ambush. Ashenclaw roared instructions, flames flaring from Emberlight's paw, but Lyria was nowhere to be seen. Emberlight's eyes darted desperately, searching the swirling darkness. The rogue fox had vanished, leaving Emberlight uncertain whether she had fled or betrayed them. Before she could react further, a pulse of shadow swept across the horizon. Emberlight's heart seized as her gaze shifted toward her village, still visible in the distance. Flames licked the edges of the tree line, devouring familiar homes, tossing plumes of black smoke into the twilight sky. Her village, her people, were under attack, and Lyria's absence made the threat even more unpredictable. Emberlight's flame flickered violently in her paw, as though the mark itself trembled in fear. She clenched her claws, determination rising through panic. The shadows were closing in, her village was burning, and one question gnawed at her mind. Where is Lyria? Friend or traitor? And can Emberlight master the flame in time to save what remains before it's too late? The battle is about to erupt, and the Guardian's resolve will be tested like never before. Emberlight's paws burned as she sprinted along the forested paths leading away from her smoldering village. The distant smoke still curled into the sky, a grim reminder of the shadow's relentless assault. Ashenclaw's stride was steady beside her, but his expression was grim. "We cannot waste time," he said. "There is only one place where you might gain the knowledge, and the guidance you need. The Silver Council." The Silver Council, whispered about in legends, were said to be ancient keepers of magical balance, their wisdom older than even the oldest guardians. Emberlight's heart pounded. Could they help her? Could anyone help her? When they arrived, the council hall towered like a cathedral, carved from silver stone that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Doors taller than Emberlight herself creaked open, revealing a vast chamber lined with glowing runes and seated elders whose eyes glimmered like molten silver. "You are the Guardian," one of them said, voice like wind over glass. "We have been expecting you, though whether your flame chooses to obey is another matter entirely." Emberlight stepped forward cautiously, paw igniting faintly. Ashenclaw whispered, "Trust cautiously. Their intentions are rarely as clear as they appear." As they spoke, the elders revealed a shocking truth. The flame was sentient. It had chosen Emberlight not merely to fight the shadows, but to guide her toward a destiny fraught with danger. It could protect her, but it could also demand sacrifices she had not yet imagined. A chill ran down Emberlight's spine. Even with this knowledge, doubts gnawed at her. Were the council truly her allies, or were they guardians of the flame for their own designs? Could they be tempted to control it instead of helping her master it? Her doubts were cut short by the sudden screech of shattered silver and the metallic scrape of claws on stone. Shadow beasts, more cunning than ever, burst into the hall. Emberlight reacted instantly, flames dancing from her paw to repel them, but the battle was chaotic. A cry rang out. One of the council elders fell, shadows piercing through robes of silver and extinguishing a life of millennia. Silence fell for a heartbeat. Then the voice of the fallen elder echoed in Emberlight's mind, chilling and deliberate. "The Guardian will fall." Ashenclaw growled beside her, flames flickering wildly as the hall trembled. Emberlight's heart raced. This attack was no random strike. It was a warning, and it left one terrifying question unanswered. Who, or what, was truly orchestrating the shadows? Emberlight's eyes blazed as her flame surged unpredictably, her mind torn between fear and resolve. The shadows had sent their message. The Guardian was being tested, and failure could mean the end of everything she sought to protect. Will Emberlight survive the ambush? Can she trust the Silver Council, or are their secrets darker than the shadows themselves? The trial intensifies, and the Guardian's path becomes even more perilous. The echoes of the fallen elder's warning rang in Emberlight's ears as she fled the shattered Silver Council Hall with Ashenclaw. Smoke and shadow clung to the night air, the city around them silent and tense. Emberlight's paw flared repeatedly, trying to stabilize the unstable flame within, but a gnawing dread churned in her stomach. She knew where she had to go, the Shadow Fortress, where Lyria was trapped, and where the source of this darkness waited. The fortress rose ahead, jagged and looming, its walls twisted by magic, black smoke curling like living tendrils into the moonless sky. Every instinct screamed caution, yet Emberlight's determination overpowered fear. The flame in her paw whispered encouragement, sending sparks of light dancing across the obsidian stones, illuminating runes etched in blood-red patterns. Ashenclaw's voice was low, tense. The shadows here obey someone who knows you. Every trap, every patrol, they anticipate your moves. Be ready. Inside the fortress, Emberlight slinked through hallways that seemed alive, walls shifting, shadows watching, always watching. Then she heard it, a soft, familiar laugh echoing through the cold stone corridors. Lyria emerged from the shadows, eyes wide but unreadable. "You found me," Emberlight hissed, rushing forward, but hesitation flickered in her heart. Lyria's gaze shifted nervously. I can help you. But there are things you don't understand," she admitted, her voice barely audible. A chill ran down Emberlight's spine. Lyria knew more than she revealed. Could she be trusted, or was this all part of the plan? Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the fortress. From the central chamber, black flames erupted, coiling like serpents. Emberlight's eyes widened in horror. The ritual had begun. Figures cloaked in shadow chanted in unison, drawing power from the very flame that had chosen her. Ashenclaw growled. "The choice is yours, Emberlight. Save Lyria, or stop the ritual. Both may be impossible." Time slowed. Every heartbeat pounded in her ears. Emberlight's flame flared violently, reflecting her inner turmoil. She glanced at Lyria, pleading silently, but the shadows closed in on the ritual site, feeding on her hesitation. Then it happened. The flame in Emberlight's paw fractured, tiny shards of light flickering wildly, sparks shooting like stars through the darkness. The unstable energy threatened to explode, the air thick with tension and the metallic scent of imminent destruction. Emberlight's heart raced as the shadows surged, Lyria's fate dangling between trust and betrayal, and the ritual threatening to consume the flame entirely. Can Emberlight stop the ritual in time? Will she save Lyria, or will the darkness claim both? And what happens if the flame she carries shatters beyond control? The Guardian stands on the edge of disaster, and the next choice may determine the fate of all she holds dear. Emberlight's paw flared violently as the ritual's shadows roared around her. Sparks of unstable light danced across the cavernous chamber, illuminating chanting figures cloaked in black. Lyria's eyes widened in alarm, but before Emberlight could act, a chilling hush fell over the hall. The shadows recoiled, parting like a living sea, revealing a figure standing tall at the center of the chaos. Emberlight froze. The silhouette was impossibly familiar, the presence oppressive yet intimate. Gold and silver eyes met hers, but there was no warmth, only the glint of shadow consuming light. A voice, cold and commanding, echoed. "So, the Guardian has come." The figure stepped forward, and Emberlight's heart skipped. It can't be," she whispered. Memories flickered, childhood laughter, secret games under the moon, promises of protection. It was her sibling, once lost, now twisted, consumed by the shadow magic that had haunted her visions. "You think you can save the world, little sister," the sibling hissed, voice dripping with contempt. "Without giving up everything you love? You are a fool." Emberlight's flame pulsed wildly, responding to her anger and fear. The chamber trembled as the shadows surged around her sibling like a living cloak. Ashenclaw's voice cut through her panic. "This is the truth you must face, Emberlight. Blood alone does not protect you here. Only control of the flame will." Lyria stepped back, watching tensely, caught between allegiance and fear. Emberlight advanced cautiously, her heart clashing with instinct. "I won't let you destroy everything," she shouted, claws igniting arcs of searing light. The sibling smirked, extending a shadow-laced paw. With a surge of dark magic, the sibling struck, and Emberlight's flame flared uncontrollably, merging with the sibling's shadow in a violent eruption of energy. The chamber cracked, walls crumbling, shadows and light spinning in chaotic spirals. Pain and fury consumed Emberlight. She clawed to pull free, but the force of the merging energies dragged both of them into the air, suspended above a widening fissure that split reality itself. The air shimmered, twisted, unstable, a rift between realms opening beneath them, threatening to swallow everything. Every instinct screamed escape, but the more she resisted, the more the sibling's shadow intertwined with her flame, binding them in a struggle that was no longer just physical, but cosmic. Emberlight's vision blurred as reality bent around her. She was trapped in the rift, shadows and flame merging violently, her sibling's voice whispering, "Only sacrifice can save, only loss can protect." Can Emberlight resist losing herself to the shadow consuming her kin? Will the flame survive the chaos, or will both siblings be torn apart in the rift between worlds? The ultimate confrontation begins, and nothing will ever be the same. The rift roared around Emberlight, a maelstrom of shadow and light, reality bending like liquid metal. Her claws scrabbled against the swirling void, the floor non-existent, her senses bombarded by screams, whispers, and visions of countless fallen guardians. Her sibling's shadow fused with her flame, coiling around her like a living storm, yet neither would release the other. The flame pulsed violently, hotter than ever, yet its light was not hers alone. It had a mind, a will, a judgment. It whispered in Emberlight's mind, a voice neither human nor feline. "Do you have the strength to bear the burden? Do you deserve to guide the world's fire?" Every memory of her village, of laughter, of loss, was thrown before her, distorted into nightmares. The rift projected illusions designed to break her, villagers consumed by shadows, Ashenclaw disappearing into smoke, Lyria's betrayal repeated endlessly. Emberlight's heart trembled, claws digging into nothing as the swirling energy threatened to tear her apart. Her sibling's shadow hissed, "Give in. Let the darkness claim the flame. You are weak." Emberlight's own voice rose in defiance, trembling but resolute. "I am stronger than you think. I am the guardian." She pushed back against the torrent, focusing on her flame, feeling its sentience stir in response to her will. Sparks danced along her fur, coiling into shapes of courage, of memories untainted by shadow. For a heartbeat, the rift seemed to pause. The illusions faltered, the screams muffled. Emberlight realized the truth. The flame had chosen her, yes, but it was testing her. Only through clarity, control, and unwavering resolve could she survive the rift's chaos. She concentrated, merging instinct with intention. The flame surged, pushing back the shadows, and for the first time, Emberlight felt them respond to her commands, not the other way around. Her sibling recoiled, surprised, as the light cut through the darkness like a blade. But just as control began to solidify, the rift itself convulsed violently. The walls of reality splintered, fissures widening, colors warping. The energy around her began collapsing inward, sucking everything, shadows, flame, and even her sibling, toward an impossible center. Emberlight's heart thundered as she grasped the truth. Even mastery of the flame might not save them. The rift was collapsing, threatening to devour both realms, her sibling, and everything she had fought to protect. Can Emberlight stabilize the flame in time? Will she save her kin? Or will the worlds be torn apart together? The Guardian's ultimate trial begins, and the fate of all hangs by a single spark. The rift roared like a living thing, walls of reality crumbling into streaks of shadow and fire. Emberlight's paws clawed at the edge of the void as her flame pulsed with desperate intensity, merging fully with her sibling's shadow in a controlled yet perilous embrace. The swirling chaos clawed at her mind, threatening to consume reason and resolve, but Emberlight focused. She reached deep within, calling upon every lesson, every spark of courage, every fragment of will she had forged since the first flicker of the flame. Her sibling's eyes met hers across the storm, fear and recognition flashing briefly through the consumed visage. Emberlight whispered, "You are not lost, not entirely," and channeled the full force of the flame into a precise, controlled burst. Light lanced outward, cutting through shadows, unraveling the rift's instability with a brilliance that seared through the collapsing realms. The ground shuddered violently, and Emberlight felt herself pulled as the rift's edge snapped. Then, with a shattering roar, the void expelled them. She landed hard on solid ground, her body trembling. Her flame burned within her paw, but something had changed. Her limbs shifted subtly, her posture altered. She was no longer entirely humanoid, nor entirely feline. A living embodiment of the flame, a guardian reborn. Her sibling lay beside her, freed from the shadows but forever altered by the ordeal, eyes reflecting both gratitude and sorrow. The shadows that had stalked her world recoiled, scattering like smoke in sunlight. Emberlight rose, claws glowing faintly, sweeping the last remnants of darkness from the horizon. For the first time, a calm settled, fragile and brilliant, over the scarred landscape. Yet, as she breathed deeply, whispers tickled the edges of her mind, faint but unmistakable, like embers of a fire that had not fully died. The flame endures. Emberlight's ears twitched. Peace had returned, yes, but the world, and the flame itself, was far from done with her. She turned toward the horizon, the dawn breaking in faint gold and violet streaks. The village had been rebuilt, partially, but shadows lingered, memories of the ordeal etched into every tree, every street, every heart. Emberlight flexed her claws, feeling the flicker of her new form, a fusion of strength and agility, feline instincts intertwined with human perception. Emberlight lifted her paw, flame glowing faintly, yet resolute, gazing at the horizon where new adventures waited beyond the reach of sight. The trial had ended, but the whispers promised future challenges, mysteries, and the eternal pull of the flame. The Guardian has survived, but the journey is never truly over. And the world watches, waiting for the next spark to ignite.